Okay, this procedure is for adjusting the power supply on the Melco EMT10T. First thing you're gonna do is take these two screws off over here, and two more screws here at the back. Okay, next, you want to make sure that you move the pantograph either by hand or when you boot it. Move the pantograph forward so you'll be able to take this off, this piece of wood off the cover. So once you do that, you loosen the 4 screws. This will pop right up. This will pop right up. It should go evenly up. I'm holding the camera, so I won't be able to do this with one hand. So I'll pause it. Once you take the cover off, it will look like this, and then you have access to the power supply right here. That's the power supply, and that's where you're going to do the adjustments on the power supply voltage. Go ahead and loosen up all these screws over here so you can take the cover off. Loosen all those up. This. Loosen also these 2 on the side right here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 on the other side, which it would be these here. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. So once you loosen all the screws, the top and the sides here, and the sides on this side, the cover should pop right up, and then you have access to the power supply right here. This is what it looks like from the back, and this is where we're going to do the adjustments right here. So next step is turn on the machine. Make sure you have your network on with your computer, or if you're booting it with your USB drive, use your USB flash drive. Boot the machine, turn it on, make sure everything turns on. It'll go through this process. Once it boots up, you will get the display to show this up, Melco Embroidery Systems EMT10T, and then 1.14, which is the version. You might have another type version, but as long as it boots, and once it boots, you should be able to move the pantograph by holding this button here, and then the up and down arrow. The pantograph should move left, right, up and down. That means the machine has booted up correctly. Okay, next, get yourself a screwdriver that's about 9 or 10 inches in length, and it has a Phillips point on it. Get yourself a multimeter that measures voltage, and you're going to put it on the DC setting to measure DC voltage. You could use any multimeter that measures DC voltage. I'm using this Nang 681 that I bought at Amazon for about $29 or $20 something. Model 681 Nang. So the ground probe, I used the chassis for the ground with an alligator clip. You could ground any metal in the chassis for the ground, and then the positive point is the probe. You'll use this one to probe your DC voltage. So the first voltage we're going to probe is this purple wire all the way here on the back. This purple wire, which is labeled J2-8 and J2-8. So that wire goes straight and probe the screw. Make sure you don't touch the chassis up at an angle, so it goes straight and touch the screw there on the power supply. There's two modules. There's one on the back vertically, and there's this one that's horizontally, and then there's a power box down here. So there's a power box right here. There's another board that's in the middle here, and then there's one that's vertically standing up. So right now we're measuring voltage on the one that sits vertically. So we're measuring the purple wire, and that is giving us, that's supposed to give us about 34, 35, 36 volts when the machine's operating properly. If we need to adjust that, I'll show you where to make that adjustment with that screwdriver in a second. Next voltage is that orange wire, which is labeled J21. That one is going to give us, 24 volts. So the orange wire is our 24 volt DC voltage. I have this one set at 24.40. Okay, you could also measure it from the top right here, which there's a fuse. If you get in here, any of these two, you should be able to probe there, and it should give you 24 volts. There it is, 24 volts. 24.39, 24.40. It's what I have this one set at. Next, the black is the ground, which is J2-5 and J2-4. That one's going to the chassis, so we already have this one. We don't have to measure that. Now, the next voltage is this connector here. There's a couple of voltages here. The red one, the first connector, is our 5 volt line. So the red is 5 volts, and that's going to give us 5 volts. So we have this machine set up at 5.1 volts. Okay. All these red will give me 5.1. The very first 3 in the connector from right to left. Okay. The blue one is going to give me a minus 5 volts. So this one's adjusted to minus 4.960. That's the blue wire, which is the 4th wire from right to left. The next wire is a black. That's the ground. So we don't need to probe that. So the next 1, 2, 3, 4 wires are black, and those are grounds. The next one that follows is a brown. That brown gives us a minus 12 voltage. That's the minus 12 line. So on this machine, it's giving me a minus 11.55 voltage. So if it's within 12 volts, 11.5 to 12 volts, you should be all right. That's the brown wire. The next wire is the yellow wire. The yellow wire will give us a positive 12 volts. This one's giving me a 12.12 volts. So yellow is the 12 volt line. Next one to the yellow, after the yellow, shoot, I disconnected the connector. So let me pause here for a second. Okay, so the last 2 remaining ones are red and white. And that should give us 5 volts too. Positive 5 volts. So 5 volts there. This one's giving me 5.168. And then going to the white one, which is the last one, the white wire gives me also a positive 5.146, which is a 5 volt line. So those are all the power points to measure. Okay. The next thing we're going to measure is all these fuses. We're going to power off the machine and do a continuity test on all those fuses right there. Now the adjustment, if any of those voltages are off, then the adjustment screw, it's right here. It's a little bit difficult to see with the camera, but it's right here. It's a blue and white potentiometer, where that's where you're gonna get your screwdriver. See the blue and white potentiometer? That's where you're gonna do the adjustment if anything's off. Okay, mainly the 24 volt and the 5 volt line, they would normally adjust from there. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is a continuity test. To do a continuity test, you need to have your multimeter on continuity. I could show you how to do that. Your manual should show you how to put on continuity. This 681 is an automatic multimeter, so we don't have to select any ranges. It automatically selects ranges for you, so we don't have to touch any knobs or anything. That's what's so cool about this meter right here. All right, so we're gonna power off the machine and then do a continuity test. So we go in here, power off the machine. And then we'll start doing continuity here. So all the fuses are right here. You'll see 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side, on the right side of this board. Then we'll see 3 other fuses right here on the left side of the board. Okay, which are labeled bobbin, light, and 12 volts. Okay, so those are all the fuses there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fuses. And there's an 8th one right here. This is another fuse right here. So we'll measure continuity between these 2 points, and it should beep. All these fuses, when I test them across, they should beep. So they would beep like this. You will hear a noise. Another thing you have to do here is take this black probe out, alligator clip, I mean, and then put your probe to here. Okay, so we're gonna start probing over here. So that's the first fuse is a 100 milliamp fuse, and that one is the first one in line. So that one's giving me a beep, so it's good. Second one is a 6.3 amps, the one in the middle. And then the one next to that, 6.3 amps, which is labeled L2. That's good. And then a 32 milliamp fuse, which is the E-stop fuse. Okay. Now, this one's, it's not giving me a complete short. It's giving me 56 ohms. So, it's not open. It's almost a short, so it might operate that way. The E-stop is working fine, but it's giving me 56 ohms, which is almost a short. So we're not going to touch that one because that's operating correctly. So the ones to the left, there's 3 of them to the left right there. The one on the top is the 12 volt fuse, and that one's half an amp, which is about 0.5 amps. So that one's good. Next one is the light. That's a 2.5 amp fuse. That one's good. And then the third one down is the bobbin fuse, which is also a 2 amp fuse. And that one's good. So all 5, 6, 7 fuses are good. All 7 fuses are good. Oh, and this last one on the top right here. This one on the top, which has the 2 orange wires, there's a fuse there. Okay, so that one, I believe that one's the 30. I can't remember if that's the 24 or the 36 volt line. But when you go across these two here, it should also give you continuity right there. So you might have to poke that a little bit, or slightly take these 2 connectors out a little bit, so you could get to the connector there. So there and there. See? So that gives me good continuity. So that tells me that the fuse is good. Okay, so those are all the fuses on this power supply right here that we see on the top that we have access to, and they should all test okay. That completes the test. I'm testing the power supply voltages on the EMT10T machine. Also, the EMT10T F1 should be similar. All the voltages should be the same, and all the fuses should be okay too. There's a power supply that might vary. I've seen other types of power supplies, but if you have this type, this is the one that we're testing. That's how you test this one here. Okay.